Hey guys, and welcome to this Train Sim TV video. Today we're taking a look at the Golden Age developments West of England Mainline route. This 27 mile phase 1 takes us from here at Exeter Central through to Axminster in East Devon. This is phase 1 of a bigger project that's coming from these guys, and it is set between 1940 and 1956, so anywhere in that period generally you're good for. You can also get away with earlier than that, like Southern Railway days, and you can also get away with early diesel if you wanted to as well. Just use your imagination a little bit in some areas potentially, but generally speaking you can get away with it. We're doing a scenario that I've been working on over the last few days. This is the first up Atlantic Coast Express that there used to be on a summer Saturday. This is the 10:30 Ilfracombe to Waterloo, with us adding the dining portion here at Exeter Central. We'll talk all about the different portions and stuff like that as we go along, but we're going to get set off straight away here. And we've got, first of all, the loco that's brought the train from Ilfracombe coming off the train, and then we will reverse our portion onto the train as well. We've got the dining cars here with us, which would always be added at Exeter Central, essentially. I will probably end up saying Exeter St David's about 20 times here, force of habit. Anyway, let's unpause the game. I'll just be quiet for a minute, which is, I'm sure, joyous to hear. And we'll just enjoy the scene here at Exeter Central whilst we wait to reverse down. So we are now just setting back onto our train, and I'll try not to make a dog's dinner of this. I did earlier when I tried it, so we'll see what happens this time. I've made a dog's dinner of it again. Well, that's all the cutlery smashed, no doubt. Anyway, so we got the loco on now. We can set the passengers to load, and we are due to depart here at 12:30. Just going to turn the game sound back down again, because otherwise all you'll hear is me. You've got here another dining set. So this dining set has come in from Waterloo on a train to Ilfracombe. The train has already left, and the pilot, which on this occasion is an M7 rather than a Z-Class, because we don't have a Z-Class yet. And the pilot is then shoving those coaches off into the west yard, into the east yard, and the stock would then be used later in the day for another service back to Waterloo. These dining sets that came in various styles. The style that we're using here is the former tavern cars, and a restaurant car there connected. The trail car, note they've got no buffers, so they're like literally a set to run together. And then we've got an additional BCK on top of that as well. So again, we are due out at 12:30, and we'll be waiting for our path out of here at that point. There's various things going on here. You've got a merchant navy there on the right that's come down from London. That would have brought a train in from Waterloo. Now, merchant navies were banned west of Exeter Central, rebuilts, and rebuilt like Pacifics similarly. So all the trains from Exeter Central did it then. All the trains from Exeter Central would generally get taken over by a Exeter Junction based unrebuilt light Pacific, and they would then take the train on to their destinations in Cornwall or North Devon. Now, you did sometimes get the odd one where the loco would work through. There's an instance in this scenario where a light Pacific comes through from Salisbury, a Salisbury loco, and works right through to Plymouth via Oakhampton. But most of the time they did have loco changes here at Exeter Central. And that's why the AI in some of the scenarios is really difficult to pull off, because train simulator can't do uncoupling and coupling, so you've got to try and work out with your AI where you can do these interesting manoeuvres. In the centre of the station there, those 3 coaches, that is another dining set. Now this dining set would be used for the 12:45 departure, I believe it is, the 10:48 from Torrington, and that will be the next portion, I think, of the Atlantic Coast Express. The Atlantic Coast Express used to run it in various portions, and I'll go on to talk about that as we get into the video. The biggest thing for me in this moment in time is just trying to take it all in and also provide a compelling video at the same time, and it's a bit difficult because generally driving Steam is pretty difficult as it is, so we'll give it my best shot. I did make an absolute mess of this before. Before we leave here, let's have a little look around this fantastic looking station though, because it really is special. Don't forget, this route is freeware. You don't have to pay for the route. Obviously there's a number of requirements that you need to get, but compared to some freeware routes, cough Tom, there aren't about 700 requirements. There's only a small number of payware requirements and a couple bits off UKTS and the VP Grass and Tree pack essentially needed, as well as the Golden Age Romance signalling pack. There really is not that much required, all things considered, when you look at the end result is this. It really is impressive. You know, the detail they've gone to with the signage and everything, and it's a very impressive thing, because make no bones about it, making an archive route, setting the steam here alone is extremely difficult. Never mind doing all the research to recreate this sort of thing. Is just so much respect to the guys that have done this. So over this end you've got the West Yard, Exeter Central. I did it right this time. And then you've got obviously the main station. You've got Exeter Central B box here, the little one. I think that one's still there in real life. I must admit, it's not a place I've been much in recent years. And then behind here, obviously, you've got the old yard behind the station as well, and various custom assets such as that goods yard, and particularly the station. It's just special. It really is special to see that in TS, and you really feel like you're starting a journey somewhere. Up here, you've obviously got the footbridge, you've got the road bridge, and then dominating the whole scene, you got the football stadium. No, the football stadium's further, but that's the prison. That's where the fans from the football stadium end up. You got various little buildings down here. Again, attention to detail is really nice. You got the cattle pens, and then you got Exeter Central A box, as well as the carriage shed down here. Now this loco, this one's backing down. This is another merchant navy off Axminster Junction. Now this would be heading to work the next portion of the Atlantic Coast Express. Hence, that's also got the headboard on. So it's certainly a very complicated way of doing it with the Atlantic Coast Express, and again I'll go on to explain some of the detail behind that, although there's no way that I can cover it in one video. So we're now getting ready to leave. We're due off at 12:30, which it is literally now. So let's get our loco set off here at Exeter Central. I need a swear jar for saying Exeter St David's. I'll be quiet again for a minute so you can enjoy the train leaving. So there you got a Light Pacific, one of the Regal Light Pacifics there, waiting to take a train north. That will head up. I think that's the 1 o'clock loco waiting over there. Now, what I've done for how I've worked out where stuff needs to go in this scenario, I purchased the fantastic British Railway Centres. That's me knocking some off my desk. The fantastic British Railway Centres, Exeter Central, Summer Saturday in 1961. But that book has been a massive help to me in making this scenario. Now there are various other bits that I've also purchased to go with it, and I'll detail what those are as well as we go along, if I think on. First things first, I need to try and get the loco in the right position here for this climb out of Exeter. It really is not easy whilst trying to talk. And as we head up out of Exeter Central, we're going to go through St James's Park, and then we'll go onwards towards Exmouth Junction and our first stop at Honiton. Arriving here, you got a local from Sidmouth Junction. That would take the wives of farmers and the like to Exeter Central for their Saturday afternoon shopping. The 12:08 service from Sidmouth Junction. Now we are making a very slow climb out of Exeter. It's literally a 1 in 100 climb out of the city. So you do have to be quite steady with it. The loco's got to get its feet and it's got to find its way. The way that the timings and everything are done in the old working timetables, which is what this is taken from, is generally speaking you would have an average speed that you need to hit between your stops, and there would always be quite a lot of play in that. So the timings would take into account, for instance, that we have to make this climb out of Exeter, and essentially once you hit the plateau around Pinot, that your speed would then increase, because obviously it would, and that's sort of the way it's worked. So no real cause for concern that we're only doing 16 miles an hour as we exit the tunnel here. We're just about to come over the summit of this first climb. We have got 12 coaches on the drawbar, so we have got a fairly heavy train. And all of the coaches on this working, I believe, came from Ilfracombe, with the only ones that have been added to this one being the 3 that we added there at Exeter Central. We're now climbing up past Exmouth Junction Yard. So that's Exmouth Junction Yard. That was a huge marshalling yard. Now I've not filled it with wagons because I don't want to kill the FPS just for that. Similarly, as of yet, I haven't added any locos into the loco shed, which we're going to take a look at in a minute, because it is really, really stunning. I promise you, it's something special. And we'll take a look at that now. So over here, you got 34069, which is up here. That is the loco that came on this train, obviously, as we were speaking about, from Ilfracombe. So that's come up from Ilfracombe. It would then go on to the engine shed and sit here. Now that book I mentioned earlier, the Exeter Central 1961 book, that actually gives you all the loco turns and stuff off Exmouth Junction, so you would know exactly what that working, whether that loco would go back out and work something else during the day, and stuff like that. Now you got here, look, the Colwin Tower. So this Colwin Tower is really interesting in real life. A lot of them were the same, in that they would put a wagon on the hopper at the bottom. It would then lift up and tip all the coal out into this bit, and obviously you go underneath and you'd load under the loading road. I think there's 2 loading roads, that one there and the one here. Now 3469 is on the Ashpit Road there. It would get dealt with there, and then it would go under the coal and probably go for turning as well, because the turntable is down the bottom. Now this Colwin Tower used to go through 300 tonnes of coal a day. Just think of that, that's a lot of coal. That's probably all that wagon make there, to be honest, if not more, but actually definitely more. They're only 16-tonne hoppers. And obviously this bit would be kept topped up. That would be coal all the way in there stored, and they would load the wagons in as and when they needed it. And there was actually a coal train in the working timetable that took the coal along the line to the various depots and stuff, and particularly brought it here to Exmouth Junction to be used in the coal loader. And you've got various other empty wagons over there that which no doubt would have been used in this process. Now you got this wonderful loco shed that's been recreated. Exmouth Junction 72A shed, obviously in those days, was a really, really important place. You had over 100 locos, I think something like 114 locos allocated to this depot in 61. There was certainly a time when they had 121, I believe, and it may be even more than that at one point. But I love the detail that Joe has gone to, I think it is, that's made these assets in here. The heavy maintenance road, and then you got all the stabling roads with the various pits underneath them. You got the ventilation above with the ventilators all there as well. It is really, really stunning. And I just love the atmosphere. When I made one of the morning scenarios for this pack that I'm doing for 1961, the atmosphere on there in the mist in the morning, it was just superb. And then seeing it at night as well, again, it's great. The whole thing just has a great atmosphere. Anyway, we'll take a look at our train as it comes past now. We're just starting to gain a little bit of speed as we come over the top of the hill. You can clearly see the summit actually in the background. On the left there, you got the downyard at Exeter Junction, and that would be for freights heading into Cornwall and stuff. There was only 1 or 2 freights, I think, that actually didn't stop at Exeter Junction. Pretty much everything else did. So we're now headed over the first of our little summits on this line. Essentially we're on a long climb now to Honiton Tunnel. And that's around 15-20 odd miles away. Our first stop is at Honiton, which is in 15 miles. That is on the middle of the really steep climb. It's nearly at the top of the really steep part of the climb. But you can see our speed, it is now climbing. We're on the 1 in 469, so we're over the plateau. As we go through Pinnow, we'll take a steep dive downhill, about 1 in 100. That is where we'll suddenly start to gain most of our speed, and it'll become really evident. Now what I love here is the detail the guys have gone to with all of these gardens. They've made sure the gardens close to the track are really nicely done. Every bridge as well has actually got its individual bridge number. It's little details like that that I really am loving seeing, and it's just the way that they've captured the whole atmosphere of the period. They've not missed anything out or anything like that. They've really done a really superb job. And it simply does capture the whole atmosphere of the era. Again, it's set in the period 1940 to 1956, but give and take 10 years either side. Yeah, pretty much fine, even more to be honest, for the earlier years. Some sidings on the approach to Pinnow. Some of these were opened in the war for food distribution, I believe it was, and storage and stuff like that. From my readings and the various books I've been using to research the line. And we're now coming towards Pinnow Station, which we'll go and take a little look around before the train gets there, and then we'll watch the train as it tears through. And we're due also to pass another train around this area, I remember as well. I'm going to mess about with the reverser a bit, pull that back. I'm also going to ease off the regulator just so we can get a bit of coal, just so we can get a bit of water into the loco, because we're running slightly a bit high on power water usage at the moment. So I'm going to turn both injectors off, and then I'm going to let the fire build back again. I really did struggle quite a lot with this working earlier. Now we've got another train coming the other way. Let's take a look at that. Now that one is an interesting work, and that is a full rake almost of Mark 1. You've got one that's not on Mark 1 at the back, but that interesting working is a direct Portsmouth to Plymouth. Now there was only a few sets in the 1950s and 60s, particularly in the early 60s. There was only a few sets that were just Mark 1s, and they were only used on certain workings, particularly rare in the Western District, the far west, in the West of England Mainline. They only worked really, I think it was the Brighton Plymouth and the Portsmouth Plymouth service. They would be formed of 2 sets of 4 Mark 1s to make an 8-car rake. And the Southern was really interested in the way that they did their coaching, is that they actually had sets of coaches, much like a multiple unit. They would have different letter codes for each set, and then a set number. So the set numbers are on the back of the coach on the brake sets. On the sets you would have a brake coach, and you'll notice with most Southern trains they've got like half the train will be made of brake coaches. So for instance, this is set 849. Now set 849 is a 5-coach set, so it's a H set, and that would be used for the West of England line services. And you can see the first 5 coaches are set H, and I will then come into pause because we're about to go for a station. But you get the first 5 coaches here are a full set. These coaches would always stay together unless they were split up for any reason, and they generally were not split up. Maybe once every 5-6 years you would see a coach changing these sets. Generally speaking, they would not change. And then you have what you call loose coaches. Now this isn't the exact right coach, but it's about as close as we can get in TS at the moment. But this is a loose SK that is included in this rake. Now a loose coach, the term there that's been used is that this has been added to the train as an additional for a summer Saturday, for instance, to strengthen the train. Normally, if this was a winter Saturday, for instance, it wouldn't have that extra coach added into it. And then you've got what I believe is another loose coach on the set. So that is a loose BCK. We then have a 2 set. Now a 2 set is an R set, and an R set is just these 2 coaches. It's set number 76. Now I've been using the Carriage working notice from 1961 to actually work all these out and get the correct numbers on the coaches and stuff. So this is set R76, and these would be used again from the West of England, so Cornwall particularly, hence why it's on this train from Ilfracombe. And that is just made up of a BSK and a BCK. And then obviously you got this dining set. Now a dining set does not have a set number on here, but the tavern car obviously has to run with one of its trailers, and there we see it with its trailer. Now these are interesting cars, the tavern cars. They were originally built in the sort of style of a British pub, and they had really weird sort of colours. They were almost like they really used to get the mickey taken out of them. It was sort of like jokey almost inside, but they were trying to be serious. They had like stone effect paper and stuff inside to try and make it look like a pub. But what the Southern Railway did when they first built these coaches was on the inside they actually didn't put any windows. And the reason they did that was to try and make sure that like diners didn't stay in the kitchen car for too long. So they weren't tempted to linger whilst enjoying their dinner. They were thinking that basically they might as well have been sat in prison as sat in there. And it was only in later years when they rebuilt them and put these 2 extra windows in. Now, of course, we do have the actual restaurant car down here, and that is also on the train. And then at the front, we got the BCK, because obviously you need a brake coach generally to go with your dining coaches, and that is what this is here. So this is BCK, a loose BCK once again, and that is 6719. So you got various long 12-coach train made up of sets from different places and stuff like that. And I haven't actually got an allocation working notice, so I need to get hold of one of those, but they're like 50 to 60 quid and I just can't afford it right now. And the stuff I've got's already skimped me, so I've got to be careful what I buy next. But this is Broadcliffe Station anyway. Enough of that. We've got Broadcliffe Station here, another one that's really, really nice. You got the unique sort of looking cottages at the back here. And if you look at old photos and stuff, you'll see just how nice they were. Now, I love these tall semaphores. They're absolutely brilliant. The top one is just a repeater so that it can be seen further back, obviously, down the straight, so you can see it a lot further away. The bottom one being your general starter, but they always show the same. It's not a case of different signals or anything like that. You've got the goods shed, and you've also got the goods yard. Now, the yard here at Broadcliffe was used as a departmental yard, and you would actually see the big YGHC car wagons coming in there as well. I've just placed a few catfish and dogfish in there and simulating that there's some wagons sat around. Obviously all of these goods yards used to get a lot of different traffic into them. We're now gaining speed. We're nicely up to 57 mile an hour, so we're really getting going. We've got another climb to come soon, and very conscious of that, so I'm going to get a bit more water in at this point, just to make sure that we keep a steady going. We're on the lawn straight now towards Whimple, so we'll go down into a little dip and then we'll start quite a sharp climb up through Whimple. Again, the coaches on this train, so where they're from, the coaches are from Matrix trains. You can get these off Steam. I think some of them may be on UK train, Steam Sound Supreme as well, not UK trains. They are payware coaches. Texturing on them is not the best, and the interiors and stuff, you know, they're not amazing, but they are absolutely crucial for making authentic scenarios, or at least as authentic as we can on this route. And they really are a massive gap filler, and they're good to have. So, you know, all the respect to those guys for actually going and doing the research and making these coaches. That again is Matrix trains, and all the information for the various coaches and stuff you'll find in the manual. Now, and again, here we got another little scene that I absolutely love. Look at the crows on the wire, and just the whole ambience of the thing is just really nice. You've got the P-way hut below, and it's just all been captured really, really nicely. Now we will start to lose a little bit of speed around here because we are starting this climb. As you can see, we're on a 1 in 171 rising gradient. Now I can't keep the F3 hood on because I need that F5 hood up there to see how I'm steaming. I really do have to concentrate whilst trying to be eloquent with the video. Been eloquent for me from being from Wakefield, as difficult as it is. So, you know, sorry but not sorry. Of course, our loco, it is a merchant navy. This is a Bossman Games merchant navy, and we are on 35003 Royal Mail. This again is an Exeter Junction merchant navy. Locos generally that works down here with a one space to Exeter Junction. You would see a few turns from Nine Elms merchant navies, and you would also see the odd Salisbury one make an appearance down here, but generally speaking, most of the locos that you would see on this end of the route would be from the Exmouth Junction stable of over 100 locos. Again, this is 35003 Royal Mail. The Bossman Games locos are really fun to drive on this route, I've found. I've really enjoyed the challenge and the sounds and everything that you get from them. Now, I am cranking it open quite a lot here. I'm going to try my best to sort of make the most of it whilst we've got a bit of steam. Just trying to stop her blowing off a little bit there. We've got quite a lot of steam to spare, but we're on a 1 in 135 now, so we've obviously got to try and keep everything balanced. This is where the balancing act becomes really difficult. With 12 coaches on the drawbar, I suspect that's around 300 to 400 tonnes, maybe a little bit more. 13 coaches I think was the max that we generally see down here. And we're nicely holding 50 miles an hour. We're actually gaining speed slightly as we head up towards Whimple Station. Again, our first stop on this service is Honiton Junction. We are currently running about 2 minutes late, but I think once we get over this hill here and head down towards Seaton Junction, I think we'll find we're not actually doing too bad. Let's have a little look again around Whimple Station. As with all the stations on the route, it's custom. It's all been lovingly recreated. Now, as with all the stations again, you got all this goods yard stuff going on here, and it's a really impressive little area. You got the small village up there, and another thing that you've got at Whimple was the Whiteways cider orchards. Now, the cider orchards were really important in the early days of the railway, particularly. Later years, they started using lorries, I believe, for their freight traffic, but in the old days, they did indeed use this yard here at Whimple an awful lot for their goods traffic. and you can sort of see evidence of that by the various sheds and stuff. So you would get a lot of stuff coming in here. Now there is a fantastic book that I've been using, and I'll put that in the references in the description as well. Now that book gives you pretty much every bit of information you could ever want about the line between Yeovil and Exeter. It's an Irwell press book, and it's like 400 pages, and it goes through, well, for one, it goes into the detail, for instance, of who works at the stations. Never mind the other things. For instance, it will tell you what freight used to come into the yards, and that's where I've been learning this stuff. So that when you do pick up freight, you actually know roughly how many wagons you can take into the yard and what you should be using and what sort of wagons would appear there. It really does help. So if you're a scenario creator, there's just so much to learn from that book, and it's just actually fascinating to learn. I mean, this is a line that I have a lot of time for anyway in real life. Of course, these days it's a very sort of boring line in reality compared to what it was in its glory years. But back in these days, it was amazing with the amount of traffic that used to come this way and just how well used it actually was, how important it was. And obviously these days this section here would be a single track main line. Not much faster, we're 85 mph limit here. In real life today I think it's probably only 90, so really no different. The only difference is that the traction obviously can get up here a bit faster. Having said that, it's generally only got 3 or 6 coaches, not 12, so... And it doesn't come all the way from Ilfracombe. Something interesting that I did actually notice when doing the research, I realised that really going by car from London to Ilfracombe these days is only about half an hour faster than it was by train in the 1950s and even earlier, which says an awful lot about this country, I think, and the way it's sort of backwards. But you know, there isn't the traffic there necessarily to go from London to Ilfracombe, although I'm sure there's communities up there that really would benefit from still having the railway. At least this section survived, and if it had been up to the BR board maybe some of it wouldn't, but at least the main line did. Of course the branch lines didn't survive. The only one that did was Exmouth. We'll see in a minute as we go through Sidmouth Junction in about 2 miles the state of play at Sidmouth Junction back in those days. Of course these days Sidmouth Junction is called Fenneyton. Back in the day that this is set, Sidmouth Junction was a very important station. You have through coaches from places such as Cleethorpes on a summer Saturday. There was actually a Cleethorpes to Exmouth working that used to come through all the way, which obviously is a mammoth journey in itself. And now you might think, who wants to go on holiday from Devon to Cleethorpes, or who wants to go vice versa? It just seems a bit of a long way to go. And obviously you've got to remember that these trains will travel through a lot of places on the way, and wouldn't necessarily have all the passengers from Cleethorpes. For instance, you would have people getting on at Birmingham and going to Cleethorpes, and people getting on at Birmingham and going to Exmouth in the opposite direction. We are just passing this strong country board. I love this sign. You'll pass one of these here, and then you pass another one as you get towards Seaton Junction. So we're now on the slight downhill through through Sidmouth Junction. I'm just going to shut the regulator for a minute while I get a bit more water into the loco. We're now on the climb again, so I'm going to get the regulator back open. We've got to get some more work done. Now we have only got 5 miles to Honiton, so what I'm going to try and do is make this water last most of the way to Honiton until we have to brake. Certainly for the station I think would be the sensible thing to do. Trying not to use too much regulator, it's quite a difficult sort of balancing act that I'm trying to play here, whilst getting the most out of the loco steam wise. have a little look around here. So what we got here, we got a train from Waterloo. So this train will be a Waterloo to, it's got the Arthur plus F6, I'll find out what it is. This is the 854 Waterloo Ilfracombe. I think this one has a few different portions on it. So you would get trains leaving Waterloo. Just turn the F6 thing off. You would get trains leaving Waterloo that would have portions for, let's say, Ilfracombe, that would have some portions for Torrington. So you get a 12 coach train leaving London. And then when you get to Seaton Junction, you might lose 2 coaches to Seaton. You get to Exeter, then you'd lose, say, your 3 dining coaches, and then you'd set out half the train to go to Ilfracombe, half the train to go to Torrington. And then there would be further splits later on. You get some parts that go to Padstow, and you'd also get some parts that go to Bude. So you get a really long train leaving London. By the time you get to Cornwall, your train could be in 6 portions, and then that all has to be added back in when the train comes back the other way. And it's just amazing how the railway used to work all this stuff out. Now, I love these signs. They're just so impressive. The Sidmouth Junction, Change Shortway, St Mary, Tipton, St John's, Sidmouth, Budlis, Alderton, etc. The etc. being Exmouth, essentially, and the other stations along that line. I will show you the map before we go away from Sidmouth Junction. But Tipton St John's on that sign was a really important station. That had over 50 train movements a day, because it was an interchange there between the Sidmouth, Exmouth, Budlis, Alderton, and various other sections. Now this platform in front of us, that is the branch platform. So that will be used by branch line trains, one of which you can see on the curve up there in the distance. And note there's no run round loop. So when a push-pull set wasn't in use, the train would have to come into this platform, the main platform that one's sat in, or it would have to go here, which is where it is, and it would be run around there. So you can see the loco's obviously taken the train in. It's then performing a run around move, and then this would form a 1 o'clock empty stock move to Tipton St John's, where it would merge into another set to strengthen for a later train to meet an arrival, for instance, from London, and take holidaymakers onwards to Sidmouth or Exmouth. Indeed, in some cases, trains would drop coaches off here from Waterloo, and they would get dropped off in the station, and then the branch train would pick them up and take them through to Sidmouth. So it would be through coaches as well. Now this is a different rake of stock, so you got all sorts of different crazy combinations. You've got a loose SK at the back again here. Then you've got a 3 set, one of the 700 range, so you got a BCK, a CK, a BSK. Then you've got, I think this is the dining set, so you've got a Monsell dining set, you've got a BCK there, and that is a SO. And then you've got the RB, or the RF, the buffet kitchen car. Again, that's a much older one and different style. Then you got another 700 free set, and up front I think we've got 2 loose SKs. So what would probably happen with this, and if I find my book I can tell you where these coaches will be going. Some of these coaches would go to different destinations, I'm pretty sure. This train being the service, as we said, from Waterloo to Ilfracombe. I think this is the 0857 if I'm rightly thinking there. Let's have a look and pause the game. So this is the 854 Waterloo to Ilfracombe. So the 854 Waterloo Ilfracombe would have the front 5 coaches. So that's the 2 at the front there, and then this 3 set that we can see on the left hand side of the screen. They would be going to Exeter to Ilfracombe. Then the dining coaches, so that's the 3 up there in the middle, the Monsell ones. They would come off at Exeter, as we've already explained. All the dining coaches came off the train at Exeter. And then you've got your coaches at the back of the train. So the 3 set and that one right at the back would go through to Plymouth via Oakhampton. Remember that the Southern Main Line went to Oakhampton to Plymouth, not, for instance, over the Devon Banks or through Totnes. So let's have a little look. I'll shut up and just drive the train through here, which is probably what you wanted to do 5 minutes ago. Now the thing to note with this one is that's a 70A loco, so this is a 9 Elms turn. 9 Elms being the loco shed near to Waterloo in London. And that's where that one came from. There's now a huge market there, I think, in real life. What I said I'd do before we left there, wasn't it? I said I'd look at the map. So the map. Now, not everything in this map has got scenery on to start with. The bits that have got scenery on are Exeter Central through to Axminster, which is here. So that's got scenery. That's 27 miles of scenery there. The next phase, which is phase 1A, I understand is going to be Seaton Junction to Seaton. Now the route of the Seaton tramway, obviously. And I think that's already quite well progressed and looks very nice looking at the screenshots. And you've also got the branches which I think will follow in a later phases, which are the Lyme Regis branch. And then the quite complicated sort of section, the one that will take, I'm sure, the longest and is a lot more to it, is the one from Sidmouth Junction, which is where we are now. The line that we see leaving here goes to Sidmouth, but you've got the important destination of Tipton St John's. That was the interchange point, because there was then a line that went to Budley Salterton, which is there. And then that was also a through line to Exmouth, Littleham, and then Exmouth here. So that shows you how important Exmouth was back in the steam era. It had a junction and everything, whereas these days everyone will know it's got a single platform. And it's really quite the railway town back in its day. Now we're gradually gaining speed again. We're on a 1 in 100 downhill again in a moment, so we're going to have a good chance to get a bit of speed up. And we're about roughly 1 minute late, I would say. Not doing too bad. We are now gaining speed nicely. Got the injectors on as well. The pressure's pretty stable. Dropping slightly, but it's at 240, so it's not really a problem. And we're just trying to gain as much speed in this dip. We come over the Fenney Bridges, and I want to gain as much speed coming down here as I possibly can. The Fenney Bridges being these ones. And I'm not sure what river that is. I'm going to guess it's the River Axe, but I'm probably... No, it's not the River Axe. It's the next valley. I don't know what river it is. Just talk amongst yourselves while we work out what river it is. Is it the River Otter? Actually, is it the River Otter? Ottery St Mary's down there. It's the River Otter. I think I'm confident in saying that. I might be wrong, but... So we're now heading off into the hillier part of Devon. We came from the coast, obviously, Exeter, the river, estuary and everything. And we're now heading up into the hills here, high above the Lyme Bay. 2.7 miles to Honiton, 1 in 100 climb. This 1 in 100 climb is what we'll be on now all the way to Honiton, so we're going to keep the loco in fine shape. We're doing 60 miles an hour. Due there in 2 minutes. We're going to be slightly late. These timings are pretty difficult, actually. And again, it is worked from the actual working timetable from 1961. The loco is set to good condition. I wouldn't want to try it with one that wasn't in good condition. I'm just trying to coax everything I can out of the loco at the moment. All of the detail on that thing with the actual whistle linkage and everything moving. So we're prepared to slow down in a minute for Honiton. We're still a fair way off yet. And with this 1 in 100 gradient, there'll be absolutely no point in shutting off yet. If we shut off now, we'll be shutting off way too early. Again, I love the telegraph wires. Have you noticed how they sort of swoop off every post and how many there is? I can't imagine how long that must have taken to place in itself. And they can be a pain in the backside. Is that an Ivo Peters little cameo there? I'm guessing it is. It's like his style of car. Ivo Peters, of course, the legendary photographer that captured so many scenes, especially in this area. He did a lot of work. And on the Somerset and Dorset route as well. Honiton next up. Once we leave Honiton, we've only got about half a mile to the summit, so we've not got much to go. Certainly a challenging drive, this one, at the moment. We are dropping speed, but that's to be expected on a 100 climb with a 12 coach load. Really not overly concerned. We can open the loco up a bit more, just try and maintain this 35 mile an hour on this last section up to the station. We don't want to drop too slow, because if we drop too slow, then obviously we are going to start losing a lot of time. We will gain time once we leave here. We've got, I think it's 26 minutes, or 16 minutes, sorry, to do the remaining 10 miles, and it's downhill 180 all the way, essentially. So I will now shut the regulator. We've got plenty of coal in there now. And I'm going to also get the injectors on fully. I'm also going to whack the microphone. Sorry if you heard that. And then get the train slowed down so we can stop it in the station. Now the Southern Main Line didn't have water troughs. We don't need water here, but you'll notice every station has got a water column on it. This is because the Southern didn't bother doing water troughs and fitting water scoops to their locos, and they only have one of the big four main lines, as we see a train absolutely fly through in the other direction. The Southern were the only one of the big four that didn't bother with water troughs on their lines. So you'll find that every station has got water tower and water filling capabilities. Now this would probably have taken water, I'm suspecting, at Axminster, which is what we'd do if we were carrying on. And Axminster was essentially one of the more important stations, as it still is today, on the run from Exeter to Yeovil and Salisbury. Yeovil and Salisbury are expected to follow in future phases of this route. Phase 1 is this 27 mile core, which it still takes a good 45-50 minutes to complete, so it's a really decent length route. It's as long as a lot of payway routes. Again, you got the pretty big goods yard here. There was a lot of stuff went into this yard, and a fair bit going on as well. But once again, it's just really nice detail all around. So pleased that we've got this this route and all the signage and everything. You got the posters. As I said, the route's set 1940 to 1956, so you'll see Southern Railway posters and stuff. But I love seeing them. You know, Seaton, Devon, and various little things. You can't do anything about that. That's a good old train sim. Once again, I said about the bridge numbers. There's one of them, 472. We are now given the right of way, so I can turn that off. I've managed to kill the fire whilst we've been here. Worth noting. Bad mark. Now get the brakes off, and we'll depart. And I'll be quiet whilst we climb up to the summit. So I'll let you enjoy the sound of this Blue Pacific. Now that we are inside Honiton Tunnel, so this is the longest tunnel I believe on the West of England Mainline. It's over half a mile long, something like 1,200 yards. We'll now plunge downhill 1 in 80 all the way to Seaton Junction. Line speed of 85 miles an hour, so we'll get some decent speed up down here. We're currently expected to arrive at Axminster at 13:13. We're due there at 13:09. Now I'm looking at the mileage there, it's 8 miles. Now to get there in 8 minutes, 7 minutes now, is a average speed of 65 to 70. We're not going to be quite on time, but we're not going to drop any more time. We dropped 1 or 2 minutes already. We're not really going to drop any more than that. We're probably going to be about 7 minutes till we get there. We'll get some real speed up going down the hill. I can turn one of the injectors off now, and I can also adjust the loco's reverser because we don't need to be worrying too much about power and everything and stuff at the moment. And continue to get a bit more water in there. Try and stop it blowing off. I don't want it to be blowing off as we're going down the hill. But we also want to keep the speed rising nicely. We want to get up to 85 on this section. We'll soon pass the small box of Honiton Incline. There's a very small siding here, which you'll all see in a moment. Now the manual for this route is available on the Golden Age Developments website. There's a link to that website in our description, of course, where you can download the route. And you'll get all the information in there. It's a really good read if you don't even intend to install the route. It's worth just having a read. You can download it separately. But I really would encourage you to download this, especially if you like your Steam Hero stuff. There's so much you can invest in, and stuff like the locos and stock. They really are worth getting into. Another one of those little scenes that I love down here is the farmer over here with his dog. As we very much now are in rolling British hills and rolling British typical sort of countryside that you see. Plunging down this hill as we go. We're heading down essentially into the Axe Valley now. So this valley, at the bottom of it is the River Axe. These days this is all tree lined, completely tree lined. You can't really get any idea that if you didn't know the railway was up here, you probably don't even notice it. Now up at 75. Now I've got to be careful coming down here because there's a 60 mile an hour limit at milepost of 148, and we will need to get a braking application in for that. I'm going to shut the regulator now in preparation. Now they don't have speeds on the HUD. You've got to really know your route. The speeds don't show up on the HUD, just like in real life. There's no speed signs at the side of the track. And the way the Southern did it was the driver obviously knew the route. And you will see in a moment a triangle. That triangle indicates to the driver that's where the 60 mile an hour restriction begins. And I'll tell you as we pass that. But that is on a sharp curve. Just as we pass the other strong country board that we saw earlier, we saw the start of the strong country. And we're now going to be leaving strong country. Presumably we're now heading into weak country, I don't know. I don't even know what the strong country is. I need to do some research on what the strong country is, obviously. Got a train here working its way up the hill. That one will have started from Seaton Junction, or started away from Seaton Junction and working much harder. That working, I believe, is the one to Sidmouth and Exmouth, so it would have half of its train essentially go to Sidmouth and half of it would go to Exmouth. So what we'd do is that one would terminate at Sidmouth Junction, the station we saw about 20 minutes ago. It would actually terminate there at Seaton Junction with the Merchant Navy loco, and a loco would then take it down the branch, both portions. That's the triangle that I was on about. That's the start of the 60 mile an hour limit. You can see on the HUD. Still going downhill 1 in 79, so it's a balancing act at this point in time. But we are doing quite nicely, and we'll be in a position to then open the regulator as we get down here. So this is Seaton Junction station that we're approaching now. Now this station is, honestly, this is my favourite station on the route. I don't know why, because it's not exactly the most spectacular, but I always find something a bit mystical about this place. I don't know why. Don't worry, that will appear. There it is. But the way it's been recreated in Train Sim is pretty much perfect. I really like it, and there's just something about it. I don't know what it is. It's the sort of quintessential British junction station. If you think of a modern railway and think of a junction station, this is pretty much it. It's the sort of thing that you would expect to see. You've got your island platform here with the big building on it, and then you've got your main platform over there on that side for the that links into the town, and you've got the footbridge that links the whole lot. It was an interesting station, Seaton Junction. Obviously, it's the junction for Seaton, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But you've got various buildings here. You've got the main station building, still standing today, although barely. And then you've got the dairies here. So this dairy provides a lot of rail traffic. You can see the huge amount of milk churns, for instance, that they provided the railway with. But also they had a loading system here. So the goods shed, I understand, could be used for loading the churns into the standard van wagons, the 12-ton vans. They would come in through this door here and get thrown in the vans, and they would get added onto trains to London or whatever. And then you had your tanks, and now the tanks could actually be loaded from here, from this tank here. The wood could actually be cleaned with fresh spring water that used to come down the valley from up by the summit. They found a spring up there, did the LSWR on the dairies. I can't remember who found it, but anyway, the water would come down here and they would actually power a jet into the tanks to clean them out, obviously, because you can't do with dirty milk inside there. And then they would fill them with milk, and then you get regular trains coming out of here loaded with milk, and empty wagons coming in as well, and they would be regularly used for the milk traffic. You got the barrier crossing here for the disabled passengers, and also for carriage of goods and parcels. A lot of parcels traffic went on these trains because they had so many brake coaches. Quite often they could just chuck a load of parcels in the brake vans there. This is the branch platform, and these coaches over here, ignore the fact there's people sat in them. They are just used for strengthening the service. You've got a luggage van and a single SK coach. Branch is the one that the guys are working on now to recreate in the next phase of the route, so I'm looking forward to that. And as with the other junctions, this got through coaches. So what they used on this line, generally speaking, was a rail motor service. So that would be a push-pull fitted M7 locomotive with two coaches. One of them had a driving window in the end, much like a DBSO coach. And they would actually drive from the coach with the loco at the back, a bit like a Great Western Auto train, or exactly the same essentially. But what they would do is when a through coach got dropped off the back of a train here, they would quite often bring the whole train off the branch, push onto the coach or pull onto the coach depending which way they were facing, and then take the whole thing down the branch to Seaton and whatnot. So very much an interesting operation which I'm looking forward to recreating. Anyway, let's shut up and get on with flying through this station. I'm going to give a good blast on the whistle for this one. So this little section down to Axminster is very much where a driver can try and make back a bit of time. We're going down a 1 in 100. We're running a little bit late. This is where you can get your 85 mile an hour out of it. Let's go for it. Let's get the fin opened up and we'll go for it. We're going all the way to London. We don't want to be late when we get towards the busiest section of the route. You know, let's pretend we're going right the way through. Obviously the Exeter Junction crew, I think, will probably come off at Salisbury on this work, and I'm even maybe even Yeovil. And the information on that again is in that Exeter Central book. You've actually got the driver's turns and the loco turns in there, so you can do these scenarios. This is the main thing that's helped me make these scenarios. The scenarios that come with the route, they have been made in a more respectable way than I've made this one. So I've made this one using loads of requirements. The guys that have made the scenarios for the route have been really sensible. They've not used many requirements, so you won't see any AI. But you'll also not have to buy thousands of pounds of stuff to run them. You only have to have a few things. And it's a really sensible way of doing it and making it so everyone can have a play. So absolutely flat out here. 82 miles an hour with 12 coaches on is not bad at all. Let's have a little look at this fly past before we have to chuck the brakes in, because we'll have to drop the brakes very soon. We are now dropping the brakes in. We're going to have to get a lot of braking done here. We've only got a mile. We might not even get to stop, to be honest. Have to keep the brakes really quite keenly on here. We're down to 70 now. We're at 0.7 miles. We should be fine at this point. But we're going to be around about on time. We're due in at 13:09. It's literally just turned to 13:09 now. And that's what I mean about average speed. We were really slow earlier on, but because we've raced along at line speed on that section, we got up to 82. We've managed to pull back a bit more time. That bridge there that we've just gone under carries the Line Regis branch over. We'll take a good look around before we finish this video, because Axminster was a very important place back in the day. These days it's actually returned to importance a little bit more, thankfully. But certainly back in these days it was a really quite important railway junction. And we are actually going to be pretty much on time, maybe 10 or 15 seconds late. And that is an example of how you can recover that time on these long distance journeys in real life. Now you can see the water tower on the end of the platform. We've used about 2,000 gallons of water from Exeter, so in real life you probably would be looking just to have a little top up here so that you're comfortable for the climb to the crew cairn. Well, with my driving you'd be lucky if you could get the thing into the tender. Now you... Oh, look at that, boys. Let's ignore the fact that I've actually gone past. Train Simulator thinks I've done it and I don't care. But, I mean, we are filling the brake coach with water. I would just fill up milk churns with water. But, you know, we arrived... I'd call that an on-time arrival, to be honest. Bang on the dot of 13:10. We are officially a minute late, but we're still almost in the minute of 13:09. So I'd argue anybody that said I were late. This is Axminster Station. You got the huge water tower here because obviously you got to keep these water cranes filled up, and you got quite a sizable goods yard. There was quite a bit of cattle traffic went from this place, and also just general goods. Now the goods from here and again with all the other stations would be driven out by British Railways in these style vans, and obviously the famous red and cream ones as well. The whole town would be kept alive by this railway goods yard. Everything would come in from Nine Elms and stuff. There used to be a freight from Nine Elms. Used to come into here early morning and drop a lot of these wagons off. And then on a market day you'd get more cattle wagons coming in, taking the things that have been, you know, the cows and pigs and whatnot that have been sold in markets, taking them off to London, taking them off to the south, taking them off to wherever they've been sold to. They would often go by rail. But you got over here the branch that will continue one day to Line Regis. That branch in the late 50s was still being worked by the Adams, I think it was the Radial 02 tanks that were from like 1880 or something daft like that. You know, there were 70-year-old locos still working this branch right towards the end of steam and the late 50s. So that's something I'm looking forward to recreating at some point. But really enjoyable run, and a massive, huge well done to the guys that have made this route. There's so many locos you can run on it that the list in the manual will tell you all about that. So don't forget to download it. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Don't forget you can download the route. It is available from Golden Age Developments. And again, thanks to Harry for allowing me to have an early copy to learn and get to drive the route and test and everything as well. So cheers, Harry, for that. Cheers, guys, for watching, and thanks. And I'm really looking forward to the future installations of this route and the future phases. Cheers, guys. See you later. Bye.